California State Route 243 is a bad road. So many great roads are. 85 miles east of Los Angeles, the northern end of this 29-mile asphalt patchwork offers incredible views of the confluence of the San Andreas and San Jacinto faults. Some 3,000 feet higher, near the road's southern terminus, a typical winter dumps 32 inches of snow. The pavement here takes its beatings from above and below, and it shows. Highs anaerobe ride quality, deft handling, gobsmacking acceleration. Lows stiff brake pedal, flat steering effort. Verdict: McLaren continues to rewrite supercar bylaws. But mostly SR 243 is cracked and buckled from years of neglect. It connects an industrial city of 30,000 with a town of less than 100, and you could drive it in both directions and still you'll be convinced that it goes nowhere. No surprise, then, that it's been either forgotten or ignored by the transportation agencies busy triggering SoCal's major arteries to keep them from clotting. This road, also known as the Banning Idlewild Panoramic Highway, should be a treacherous proposition for a $378,215 car that skims the surface with 4.2 inches of ground clearance and a half-a-year's salary's worth of carbon fiber aero hanging from the underbody. Driving the rear wheels with a 710 horsepower V8, the 720S is a hellcat as realized by a Formula One team. By the chief engineer's own admission, this new mid-range McLaren laps road courses quicker than the $1.2 million P1. So you might assume that it is a brutal and uncompromising thing, so absurdly fast that it all but refuses to be driven down this marginally improved goat path. Except that it's not, and it doesn't. When McLaren re-entered the roadcar business in 2011, its MP412C, later just 12C, and later yet, 650S challenged the Italian houses with an abundance of carbon fiber and a glut of turbocharged power. The company's best contribution to supercardom, though, is the chassis advantage it still lords over Ferrari and Lamborghini. With a suspension that draws parallels to a 60-year-old French sedan, the 720S delivers the ride of a Mercedes class with the handling of, well, a McLaren. The 720S's interior is a model of functional simplicity. McLaren doesn't even festoon its steering wheel with buttons like all the other supercar brands. The company's proactive chassis control too connects the left and right dampers with a network of hydraulic hoses and accumulators so that compression on one side resists extension on the opposite side. This allows the engineers to ratchet up the roll stiffness without compromising the vertical compliance that dictates ride quality. A scarred and technical road such as 243 is the perfect place to test the system's capabilities. Our drive starts in Banning, California, an industrial town saddling Interstate 10 that could have been plucked out of central Oklahoma for all its anonymity. Just a mile outside town, SR 243 begins to climb the northern tip of a granite formation that stretches to the Baja Peninsula and offers dramatic vistas of a landscape that is uniquely Californian, combining parched desert, verdant mountains, and snow-capped peaks. The road rises quickly on a series of fast yet pocked-on camber sweepers. A biting late winter wind works against the 720S's optional Biley P0 Corsa tires, which want heat in the tread before they'll latch to the pavement with the full 1.10 grams S of cornering grip we measured at the track. It takes a feverish pace to keep the tires warm and happy, a pace the 720S makes effortless. In corners, the McLaren sticks as if pressed into the pavement by the hand of God, and yet it feels as light and nimble as a Miata. Few automakers count grams as neurotically as McLaren does, with the Brits even omitting a limit slip differential in the interest of containing mass. At 3,161 pounds, the McLaren crosses the scales 157 pounds lighter than a dual-clutch Porsche 911 GT3. The 720S's trick suspension sorts the busy road into a fluid surface, while the fixed-ratio electro-hydraulically assisted steering places the car with precision. Despite this competence, there's a pervasive disconnect in the flat steering effort. which maintains a consistent weight regardless of cornering load. Without that cue, it's difficult to know exactly where within the sublimate envelope you are. If you're expecting steering jiffy subtleties to coach you up to the McLaren's limits, you'll spend your miles toddling around at extra-legal speeds that are still well below the car's capability. Instead, the 720S communicates with old-fashioned steering feel. The wheel fidgets and bristles as it points out camber changes and dips and heaves that you would otherwise only notice through body motions or not at all. On SR 243, the McLaren's steering system talks incessantly, providing a constant stream of feedback that guides your hands to make unthinking corrections. Use your palms to feel the intensity of these signals, and you'll find exactly where the limits lie. The closer you push the 720S to the edge, the louder the steering speaks. The McLaren's capabilities are unimpeachable. Its steering feedback is world-class. But a 911 GT3 or a Ferrari 488 GTB better impart a sense of heroism at any speed. The 720S gives up its reward only if you push deep, and with so much grip available, that takes commitment and a touch of abandon on a public road. Rising towards 6,000 feet, Route 243 briefly uncoils and slices into pine forest. Straight runs such as this offer opportunities to uncork the engine, an update on the old 3.8-litre stroke to 4.0 litres. Unapologetically turbocharged, the M840T produces ridiculous power at the expense of considerable low-end lag, and it fills the cabin with steamwork huff and puff. Whether the 8 cylinders bark or howl, we can't quite say because the 95 bracket at wide open throttle sounds mostly like the dentist hooked his tiny mouth vacuum in your ear. Torque peaks at 568 pound-feet at 5,500 revolutions per minute and only starts to hit hard above 3,500 revolutions per minute, so you drive the 720S as if it's packing a high-strung naturally aspirated engine, keeping the revs up, carrying momentum, and cursing yourself anytime you try to yank the thing out of a corner on low-end torque. Driven this way, the engine is spectacular, spinning with an intensity that carries past 8,000 revolutions per minute. The rotating gauge cluster is the car's only gimmick. Standard mode left is great. Slim mode right is just harder to read and offers no benefits. And the transmission is paddle-shifted magic in its manual mode. The gearbox is as graceful as it is quick, shifts practically disappear. But McLaren engineers also included a bit of programming brilliance wherein hype-up shifts in track mode finish with a satisfying thwack. Called inertia push, this feature slams shut the clutch for the next cog with the engine spinning faster than the transmission input shaft. The resulting sucker punch shift uses the inertia of the rotating engine components to deliver a torque pulse to the wheels that, per McLaren, improves acceleration. For the full effect of the 720S's thrust, stab the launch button placed with the radio, climate, and navigation controls. With both pedals squeezed, the digital tach needle quivers around 3,200 revolutions per minute for 4 full seconds before the digital instrument cluster reports boost ready. The McLaren doesn't slingshot out of the hole as an all-wheel drive sports car does. Launching the rear-drive 720S is similar to lighting a rocket. You ride a wave of surging acceleration as the car's road speed catches up with the faster-spinning rear tires. The squeeze in your chest grips hardest as the tach nears the top of first gear. 60 miles per hour flashes past in 2.7 seconds after liftoff. The McLaren's pull is relentless. With the P0 coursers hooked up, the 720S wins back time on less powerful all-wheel drive rivals that surpass it off the line. At 5.3 seconds to 100 miles per hour, the 720S just nips the Lamborghini Huracan Performante. A 10.2-second quarter mile puts the McLaren almost half a second ahead of a 911 Turbo S at 180 miles per hour. It keeps pulling, as if it's trying to outrun comparisons with any other car. It is the quickest rear-wheel drive car we've ever tested. To haul the McLaren back to earth, The brake pedal requires a significant single leg press before the standard carbon ceramic brakes bite. The initial travel is dull and only marginally productive, after which the braking force begins to respond to pedal pressure. This is how we like it, a pressure-sensitive pedal rather than a travel-dependent setup. Yet the required effort is unreasonably high, and asking for more deceleration requires an exponentially harder kick. Considering the 720S's weight, sticky tires, and standard carbon ceramic hardware, we also expected a shorter stop from 70 miles per hour than the 149 feet we recorded. Both the stiff brake pedal and the flat steering grow more familiar with miles and a conscious recalibration of your expectations. As 243 wraps into some of its tightest turns, we find a fast, satisfying flow before slowing for the town of Idlewild. On the weekends, the quaint mountain hamlet draws enough city dwellers that traffic interrupts a quick run every few miles. Yet even rolling at Prius pace for a short stretch can't ruin this road. While Californians treat the freeways with ambivalence, drivers on toll-land roads consistently pitch their cars into gravel pullouts to yield for a faster car, or at least for a Paris Blue McLaren. The 720S attracts enthusiastic upturned thumbs and outstretched cell phones, even if people still have to ask what it is. So otherworldly is its design that one admirer asks, is it electric? As we pump 91 octane through its rear fender. Its organic lines understate just how much air management this machine needs, to make such obscene power, to keep a catastrophic meltdown at bay, and to stop the whole thing from taking flight near its claimed 212 miles per hour top speed. The vents and intakes are there, but you'll have to look closely to spot them. The sunken sockets housing the headlights flow air above and below the running lights and into the front-mounted radiators. Most mid-engined cars use the cooling ducts after the rear doors as a dominant styling element. See the Audi R8 or Ferrari 488 or 4GT. The 720S visually stretches its wheelbase by moving these air intakes from the sides to the top of the car. Air follows sculpted channels along the shoulders and around the canopy before falling into the body sides to feed the intercoolers. The rear spoiler disappears into the bodywork until it deploys to increase downforce or stands on its front edge to act as an air brake. The interior is artfully simple. Ferrari and Lamborghini, with their button-specced steering wheels, could take a cue from the beautiful Alcantara and carbon fiber component that does just two things: changes the direction of the car and tells others to get out of the way. Compared with the 650S, it's easier to drop into the 720S's cabin thanks to narrower sills and to hinged doors that take a portion of the roof with them when they open. It remains a struggle to hoist yourself up and over the sill on exit, then extricate your legs with any grace. But the touring spec buckets are reasonably wide and as comfortable as fixed back seats come. And visibility is excellent in every direction due to slender carbon fiber pillars and that rarest of luxuries in mid-engine supercars, rear quarter windows. Leaving Idlewild in our mirrors, 243 continues its impression of the moon's surface for 5 miles. The road ends in Mountain Center, a gas station, a cafe, and an animal feed shop, where it tees into State Route 74. Left or right, 74 leads to more mountain passes, including some properly smooth pavement. But traffic is heavier and long chains of slow-moving cars form blockades. Instead, we turn around and return the way we came. The great roads are the bad roads are the empty roads, and they get that way because they're poorly maintained and draped over unforgiving terrain. McLaren builds a ground-hugging supercar that can run on crumbling pavement as if it were a freshly laid road course. It's a supercar that never needs to pass up a great road, no matter how bad it is.